Namaste. Welcome to the third edition of the Global Festival of Oneness, organized by Advaita Academy, celebrating the life and works of Adi Shankara. We will start with a prayer. Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru-Paramparam. Welcome to the weekend special session of Prashnottara Ratnamalike, shared to us by Neema Majmudar. For those of you who joined for the first time, I'd like to give a short description of the speaker. Neema ji has the unique combination of personal background, international exposure, education, and depth of spiritual knowledge. She has studied Hindu philosophy with Swami Dayananda Saraswati. Since 1999, Neema ji has been giving conferences, conducting seminars, and retreats across the world in the domain of personal development and philosophy. Recently, Neema ji and her students Nandini and Saloni have published an illustrated book titled Finding Meaning in the Life with the Bhagavad Gita. This book gives profound insights into the teachings of Lord Krishna by explaining the key 45 verses of the Gita, especially chosen for their logic, wisdom, and practicality. Those of us who have attended the last two sessions know how clearly Neema ji has been explaining to us the beautiful text Prashnottara Ratnamalika. We are looking forward for more sessions. Welcome, Neema ji.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anuradha ji. So now I have to, because I have 67 verses to complete, so I will proceed. It was very interesting. The last question that we saw is, what is sleep? And what is sleep was declared to be non-clarity by human beings. And this is something which is very important in Vedanta. What they say is that what we see, we only see one reality. Everything that we see seems real to it. But within that, there are three things. And what are those three things? One is Paramarthika, which is the absolute reality, which is the essence of everything. Then there are forms, right? Forms are empirically true. And upon that, then what we do another projection, right? So there are, where there are three different levels, we see only one. This is called Nidra. Nidra means non-clarity, not knowing what is what. That is, we are playing with shadows. Okay. Now, let's move to verse number 11. Nalini dala gata jalavat taralam kim. Okay. What is transient, like the water on the lotus leaf, right? So how long does water stay on the lotus leaf? It's hardly any time at all, right? Either it just drops off or it gets dried up by the sun. In one way or the other, it just disappears. Similarly, for us, three things are transient. One is youth, yauvanam, dhanam, cha ayuhu. So what? Youth is something which is transient, right? So there is we can see in today's day and age, there are so many products, right, available to make you look young, right, or anti-aging, and so that you always remain ever youthful. And people also do surgeries, people do all kinds of interventions in order to look young. But what happens is, somewhere along, everybody else knows, and also you yourself know. So what the Yauvanam, youth, just kind of, passes very quickly. Then the second is Dhanam. Dhanam is wealth. Well, we think that we go on accumulating wealth and we keep, increasing our wealth, but actually it is transient. So everybody in their own lifetime and also in the lifetime of others, right? We have all seen that there are cycles. And what is cycle? At some stage, the people seem to amass wealth. Then there comes a decline, right? So this kind of a cycle continues to happen. Why does it continue to happen? Because, suppose you do something good, then you're given a compensation. This is laws of Ishvara. So you amass wealth. But the minute you begin to amass wealth, what happens? Arrogance sets in, or being privileged sets in. A certain amount of self-importance, narcissism sets in, and that itself then leads to, for you to make decisions, right, which are inappropriate, not considerate, and that again gives you the result of what? The loss of wealth. So this is why it's not that the wealth comes and goes, our perspectives change. Then as we are not able to have a proper relationship with anything, we are not able to have a proper perspective. Through our own actions, we cause this ups and downs, right? So this is why it becomes transient. It's not like Ishvara doesn't want to give us. It is through our own loss of perspective that creates these cycles. Yeah. In case of dhanam, in case of ayu, it is programmed, right? Ayu, everybody ages. There is no exception at all. You can do things to prevent it, but nobody can actually stop. Dhanam is our own interventions, right? And the other is life. So life also, no matter what, right? No matter what we do, what kind of scientific discoveries. So what they say is, if you look at the research field through the world, a lot of money is spent on, right, increasing life of people. So the research is also dependent upon what gets funded, and what gets funded the most is that which prolongs human life. So no matter what we do, what we are able to do is, nowadays I see that many people live up to 90, right? People, it's interesting. 80s though has become quite, many people, mid 80s and late 80s seems to be like a average kind of a thing. And that is a significant increase, right? Over maybe in the last 15 years. But still, right, what is 5 or 10 years of increase in life compared to the countless flow of time? It is still very insignificant. So this is why everything is transient. 5 or 10 years in the flow of time is nothing. So we think we are achieving a lot, but at the same time, it is quite insignificant. So these are the 3 things. Now, everything is transient. So why, only these 3 things are mentioned? And this is why we see Adi Shankaracharya, right? Other things are transient, doesn't really, even though they are, but they don't really create a huge sense of anxiety for us. But these 3 things, right? Youth, your life, and wealth is something that we absolutely want it to be permanent, and we want to hold on to it, and we want to kind of make sure that it never ceases to exist, and you can never change any of the 3. And this is why futility of our normal pursuits, what comes in the center for us and what is unachievable, and that is being pointed out through this verse, right? So otherwise, everything else is also as transient as these 3 things. Okay, now, next. Kathaya punaha ke shashinaha kirana samaha. Again, tell me who is equal to the rays of the moon. So if you look at the sky at night and you see the rays of the moon, what does it mean? They are very pleasing. Everybody loves to see that. Sun rays at times during the during the summer or midday, it can really make you very uncomfortable because it can make you very hot. But the rays of the moon, they never make you uncomfortable. They're always inspiring. They're always cooling. They're always comforting. So what is equal to that? Then what is the answer? Sajjana eva. My God, what a beautiful thing. He says, good people. Good people are like rays of the moon. Wherever they are, they are always pleasing and non-threatening. And that is just so beautiful that, who can you say that is an evolved human being in whose presence people do not feel judged, in whose presence people do not feel looked down upon. they don't feel threatened, right? So that doesn't mean that the person is a people pleaser and goes on just praising others indiscriminately. But what is done is, done with a certain carefulness, right? So there is a rule, which is a beautiful rule. And what is that? Satyam Vadam, tell the truth. But what? Priyam Vada. Priyam Vada means say it in a nice way. You don't have to be confrontational. And then Hitam Vada, right? When you say something, just ask yourself, why do you want to say this? You want to do it not just to prove yourself right, but maybe it is of, that will help the other person, right, in one way or the other. So this kind of people, they become Satyanas. Satyanas means they are not competitive, they are not trying to prove themselves, they don't have these pressures. And as they don't have these pressures, they become gentle, and therefore people are attracted to them, and the people find certain comfort in them. So I have seen sometimes, that people would come and see Swamiji, and they probably are seeing him for the first time. And as in his presence, what will happen is they'll start crying. They start crying because it stirs something very deep in them, certain very deep relaxation. And they are they find this comfort and trust. And then what happens is everything that has been pushed inside, it all just gets a release. So, these are the people who are they have a very calming presence. Okay. Kaha narakaha. What is hell? Paravashata. Being in another's control, right? This is one thing which is interesting. What is hell? And that is being in somebody else's control. So what does it mean? Suppose you tell somebody that I'll give you all the money that you need. I'll take care of you, and you don't have to worry about anything. But what is the condition? The condition is they're very simple. You always have to do what I tell you to do. So that is what we call control. Now, it seems like a wonderful deal. Why not? If I don't have to struggle for anything, I get everything. But all I have to do is to just follow somebody. It is interesting that, in fact, most of the people will refuse. Why will they refuse? Because there is this innate need for freedom. And what is this freedom? That you want to, right, decide your life. You don't want to be dependent upon anybody, or you don't want to be controlled by anybody. And that, we all have to respect whether you, even whether if you're in a leadership position, right, or you're in a position of authority. The only way we have learned how to assert our authority is to control people and tell them what to do. We are very kind of autocratic, and that we have to understand is not something that anybody, right, none of the subordinates, constantly want to be controlled, or people who are heads of the family, they have to give others the expression, right? That is a very basic, fundamental, right? So just a very small anecdote, and then I will move on. That I was invited for some puja, and in somebody's home, and they wanted to kind of show that how they have given values to their kids. So she was kind of asking her daughter. Her daughter was not really interested, but she was pushing her to come in front and chant whatever, one chapter of the Gita. And she was reluctant. So, she was making some mistakes and she was not standing properly. And every 2 minutes, what mother was correcting her. And I could see at the end, how even though everybody else was clapping, she was very unhappy. Why? Because first she was forced to show people, that how wonderful we are, that we have done this to our kids. And later on, she was corrected multiple times. That kind of made her feel, little humiliated. So the mother did it, in the name of perfection and recognition, but that kind of violated the needs of the child. So these small, small things, we have to be very careful how we can encourage others, how we can support others without controlling. Yeah. in the context of love and authority, this control comes out very clearly, and we have to deliberately try not to do that, because it violates others' rights. So, Kim Saukhyam, what is comfort? Sarva Sangha Viratihi Ya. So, what is comfort is, look at this, dispassion or objectivity and freedom from dependence from different objects. So what happens is, as we live our life, at different stages of our life, we get attracted to different things. And things can include what? Objects, people, and situations, right? So you want a toy, or you want a gold, or you want a stock, whatever. So the objects keep changing. People, right? Initially you're friendly with your school friends, then your colleagues, then your family. So people, right? And the third is situations. You want to create situations which are conducive for you. You want promotions, you want beautiful homes, you want vacations. So those are all experiences. So we get connected to these three things. And as we get connected to it, what happens is we start thinking that our happiness lies in them. That is paravashata. And just objects are there, and you are transacting with the objects does not create a problem. But what creates a problem is what virati, that raga. Raga means this given thing is a solution to my freedom. And once that happens, we lose our freedom. With reference to the world. The world totally captures us and holds us hostage. And our free will, there is a beautiful story, imagery, not a story, an imagery in Kathopanishad. And what is that imagery? That you are given ratha, right? Chariot, right? And you are the owner of the chariot, and you are given the buddhi to take this chariot to the final goal, which is moksha. But now, if the buddhi itself is not very clear about where I have to go, then what will happen? The horses, what are the horses? The senses, they will get attracted to different things. And if the sarathi is not very clear, and the rein is not, the mind is not very clear, the intellect is not very clear, what will happen? We'll lose, any perspective, and, we will not have any final goal in mind. Wherever what these objects or people or situations take you, you will keep going there, and you miss the final goal. And this is why this is something which is what that will not give you a comfortable life. So a comfortable life can only be gained by, first, you have to know where you are going. And secondly, you have to have the reins, the charioteer has to have reins. What charioteer is a buddhi. And what is the reins? The mind under its own mastery. And it has to guide the senses, right? Not in whichever the fancy or whatever, wherever they get attracted, but towards a goal. So this is something which will create comfort for us. Okay. Kim Sadhyam, what is to be done? So that is, the answer is Bhuta Hitam, the good of the creatures. So this is something which is interesting. What is sadhyam? One can actually answer these questions in so many ways, right? What is ultimately to be accomplished? Sadhana and sadhya. What is ultimately to be accomplished, and how do I accomplish it? So that one can talk about the final achievement. But here, Adi Shankaracharya ji takes it relatively. And what he says is that a mind which is empathetic is very, very critical. Why? Because ultimately you need to understand all that is here is one. If you want to understand all that is here is one, at a relative level, you have to feel connected to people. You can't feel indifferent to people. And what is his connection? What is the healthiest way to connect to people? Reach out and help. So what does it mean? Empathy is a gift of Ishvara to all of us. Every human mind is empathetic. What does it mean? Just as I recognize that I, want to be taken care of, I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to be in pain, and I will do anything that I can, right, to free myself from all this discomfort or pain. We are given the capacity to also recognize others' pain, and others' pain also creates a certain discomfort in us. This is human. This is Ishvara's program. But when it creates discomfort in us, not every time we reach out. And what does it mean? Intellect interferes. And what does intellect tell you? It says that, oh, who has time for all of this? If I get overly involved, I will not be able to finish what I have to do. Or that if I help one person, then I have to help everybody. And, neither I have means, nor resources, nor time to do that, and therefore not do it. Or sometimes the worst is, there are some minds who, instead of, feeling empathetic towards others, they begin to take pleasure in others' pain. Those are very distorted mind. So this is why what is to be done is first have a mind which operates according to Ishvara's order. And it has not created one's own world, which is either indifferent to others or at times taking pleasure in others' suffering. So that is very important. That is a straightforward human being who is not, projecting, who is not insecure, who doesn't have complexes. Priyam cha kim pranina. And what is dear for creatures? So, asavaha. What asavaha is what? Non-violence. So everybody, as I said, there is a common program, and that is that nobody wants to be hurt. So ahimsa is a very important value. This is why when we have this amazing tradition of sannyasa, and when the people renounce everything for this knowledge, and when they do that, there is one the vow they take, and that is of ahimsa, that let me not be the source of fear for anybody. And anybody doesn't include only human beings. Let me not be a threat to the environment, to animals, to birds, to even all these people in different lokas. I'm not a competitor. I'm not competing for any position in heaven. And let me therefore give fearlessness to everyone. This is abhayam, giving abhayam to others, and that is what we call ahimsa, right? So non-violence is something everybody appreciates the person who is non-violent. Kaha anartha phalaha, right? What is the result in evil? So what the answer is manaha, conceit, right? So what is conceit? Conceit is when we have accomplished things, then we think that we are great. And not only we think we are great, but then we start also demanding respect from others. So we think that everybody has to recognize us somebody who's important, somebody who's scholarly, somebody who is accomplished, or whatever, right? And then that it becomes like a demand. And then along with it, see, there are multiple things happening. And along with it comes concomitance. You want people to respect you and recognize you, but you yourself look down on others. You think that they are less than you, that they have not achieved as much as you. So do you see how much confusion? Instead of respecting others and acknowledging their contribution to your accomplishments, what you do is you think you are great, you demand respect from others, and at the same time you look down on others. And that is, and being that person, you can never be happy. You can never be resolved. And this is what, and this attitude leads to results in what actions which are inappropriate. So what, either you become over authoritarian, or you, I knew some people who would say that if, even in an ashram context, sometimes it can happen that, they make a rule, everybody has to come and touch our feet, and they would actually pay attention who's not doing it. And when they don't do it, what subtly they give them a hard time. Now, this becomes, demanding of respect. And nobody respects a person, who demands respect. So you actually become, people may do it, right? Because they are afraid of you. But, nobody really, so that leads to loss of respect. And as it leads, and also, when people don't feel that they have, their contributions are recognized, where they feel that they are being looked down upon, then what happens is their contribution also automatically reduces. So what does it create? It creates evil. This attitude, we think that it's very great attitude because we feel good. We have this sense of superiority, but it leads to our destruction. Why? Because we need everybody's support for us to do anything in this world. If you're running a company, you're running a government, you need everybody's support to do that. And if you start becoming arrogant, then what happens? People cannot support you, and that is detrimental to your success. That we have to recognize. Ka Sukhada. What bestows happiness? Sadhu Jana Maitri. So what? Friendship with good people, right? So this is important. That is why we have a word in our tradition called satsang. And what is satsang? Satsang means that, you create an environment which is conducive, which is supportive. And what is this conducive, supporting the environment? So when you feel down, right? Suppose you're at times not feeling down, and you feeling down and you're not feeling well. What those people will lift you up. What they will slowly and gently, they'll not make you feel bad, but they will create some hope in you. So this is why, we have this, somebody told me they are working at suicide center. And what they told me is that at times people feel so dejected in their life, and they've created such a dark picture of what is today, and also the fact that it can never be, they can never free themselves from these darkness. And this is why they conclude that now they want to end their life. So when they call these centers, and the person who answers, they don't even know that person, right? And also they don't know the life of that person. They said the only thing that you have to do is to give them ray of hope. The minute their mind comes out of this complete darkness where they don't see any solution, and they begin to have a certain hope, they can change their mind. And this is what we call, in our dark times, you have somebody is present, and it that person can show us light. That is a very beautiful thing, right? That Sajjana can do that, right? Now, the second thing Sajjana can do, good people can do, is give their honest opinion. And what does it mean? Sometimes what happens is you go to vent, right? And that person keeps agreeing with everything that you say. So suppose you're complaining about some person, then that person will agree with you and also tell you 4 more stories. So your opinion about that person, it gets reinforced, and your feelings towards negative feelings over for that person intensifies, because now you have a support. Now, this is not a good thing. It's not a good thing, because somebody who's Sajjana has to show you also what the other side, so that your thinking becomes more balanced. So you're not only thinking about one thing, and then reinforcing it, so that becomes a reality, and you overlook some other essential facts. So what does a good person do? Every time you are caught in one perspective, the person will, instead of supporting it, show you other perspectives. And what will that do? It will expand you, right? And not just kind of blindly agree with you on everything. And the third thing that Sajjana can do is to stand by you. Stand by you means to support you. It's not like when there are good times, they are with you, and when you're struggling, they just leave you alone. So these kind of people, right, that who lift you up, they stand by you, and then they give their honest opinion, they can change your life. What? So this is what they can give you a lot of happiness. They can actually, they are very precious. Okay, now the next. Sarva Vyasana Vinashe Kaha Dakshaha. Who is clever in destroying all unhappiness? So that is an interesting question. Who is able to destroy unhappiness? Sarvada Tyagi, right? One who actually here in the literal translation, it is written, one who always renounces. But what does it actually mean? What it means is that there is one thing, that there are two things that we have to develop in this world. And what is this? Alam Buddhi. Alam Buddhi means that contentment, right? Whatever I have is something which is, it's not that I'm always in an endless chase for getting something more, and never satisfied with what I have. And so that will create unhappiness in you. So because even after achievement, suppose you become, from a normal worker to in a management position, it should make you really happy. But immediately the mind goes to, I want to now belong to top management. So now that, that chase will start. This is what we call, in common parlance, rat race. Rat race means you keep chasing and you're never happy, right? And so that certain contentment that, hey, this is wonderful. And you're able to enjoy all that life gives you, all the rewards that life gives you, and you're generally satisfied. That is a very big thing that will destroy unhappiness. And second is gratitude. What is gratitude? Whatever you have achieved, whatever you have accomplished, it's all a result of so many different factors, so many different people coming together and contributing. So just our one day, right? Just think about your one day in your life. How many things you depend upon? You depend upon the earth, you depend upon the sun, you depend upon the air, you depend upon water, you depend upon all the vegetables, and countless people who make everything happen for you. So this is why gratitude and contentment are very important. And once you have that, that doesn't make you a passive person, but that makes you a person who chooses actions not from dissatisfaction, but from a place where what one feels that I've been nourished by life, and now what through my actions I contribute to life. And that means it will not make you inactive, but it will the reason for your actions will be noble rather than dissatisfaction and discontentment. Okay. Kim Maranam. What is death? Right? So Bhashyakara is very interesting. He doesn't give you a simple answer. He says that what murkhatvam. What is murkhatvam? That you're not able to make intelligent choices in life. And that is amazing. Now imagine, right? This one very precious life is given to us. And suppose like everybody, right? Something little disturbing happens, something which may be a little traumatic happens. And now you decide that, oh, why did this happen to me? And this is what your mind keeps playing. So this is what we call non-acceptance. Non-acceptance or resisting what the reality is. And your mind enters in this thing instead of entering a problem-solving mode. Now what? What can I do now? It just keeps resisting and not either blames the world or blames a given person or blames life or whatever. And in a mode which is, it's like it has completely caught you and you are not able to see. And it's a whole waste of life, because that one or two major events, according to you, right, which were little traumatic for you, they rule your whole life. The whole faculty of choice, which is able to make fresh decisions, is completely under that hostage. And this is what we call murkhatvam. Murkhatvam is living an unintelligent life. And this is why, see, we all do this and we have to be very, very careful, right? So what that we keep saying, that, oh, I'm going through this because I must have done something wrong in the past. And that is not always, it kind of justifies what is happening. And you're not using your buddhi to say, what can I do, right? And that makes you make unintelligent choices. Unintelligent choices means you're overly what we call overly just leaving everything in the hands of destiny and not using your purushartha, not using your capacity to act and to make intelligent choices, to take you out of those difficulties very well. So that is called murkhatva. Kincha anardham. So what is priceless? Yat avasare dattam. What a beautiful thing, what is priceless is that which is given to you at the right moment, right? So that is what not only you have to give, but what at the right time, to the right person, at the right place, under the right context for a good cause. And that becomes priceless. So there is a lovely story. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but there was a story about a little boy who he got into a university in the US, and but he didn't have enough money to pay for the tuition fees. So he asked one piano artist to do a concert, and then he says, I'll pay you the fees, and the rest of the earning I will use towards my tuition fees. And that pianist, he agreed. And but as the day of the concert came closer, the boy realized that he has hardly made any money. So if he pays the fees to this pianist, he'll hardly have anything left for his fees. So he goes to the pianist and he says, sorry, but this is not really working out, because whatever I have earned, I have to give you as fees. So nothing will remain for me to pay my fees. So he says, okay, don't worry, I will let go these fees. You can take everything and you can go and study. Now, many years later, this pianist becomes president of one country, and that country was suffering. And there was a drought, and there was no food, and it was very chaotic. And at that time, the US sent a lot of food to this country, and they saved this country. Now, this pianist thought that they have to go and thank the US president for this kind gesture. So he personally goes to thank the US president, and the US president tells him that you don't have to thank me, I have to thank you. So he's a little puzzled why he has to thank him. And then he says, do you remember that 20 years ago, or 25, 30 years ago, you helped this boy? And, this boy I am. So what does it mean? Help given to that person at the right time, and what it can do, what it can change the destiny of that person, right? Given that opportunity, that person actually became president of United States. And by becoming president of United States, what will happen? He saved the whole country where this pianist became president. So this is what, it's a story, and they tell me that it's a real story, but whether it is a real or not, but a thing which is given at the right time, right? At the right place, it can be priceless. Okay, now. Amaranath Kim Shalyam. What pains, what haunts till the death, right? Or what haunts us, what something which we cannot get rid of. And that is Prachannam Yatkrutam Papam, right? So the sin which is committed in secrecy. So what happens is sometimes, and this is something which is extremely important, right? Crimes are committed by different kinds of people because they have some pressure. They have pressure within them at that time. That pressure only takes over. They forget to see the consequences. What will happen, if they go along with this action. And then suppose they are not caught, right? If they are not caught, then they are not found out. Then we feel that they have got away. They have gotten away with things that they have done, but this is not the case. And what does it mean? That which haunts you is what the crime that is committed in secrecy, even if it is not found out, even if you're not, you're going to jail for whatever, it haunts you in form of guilt. So I have a real life story that I know very well, that when I was growing up, it was a big case in Gujarat, and so there was somebody who was in a caught somehow in a murder case, and then somehow they were very wealthy and they were very influential. So legally, what happened is she got away, right? She was not convicted, and she was freed. But later on, I was told that last part of her life, there was a lot of feeling, like a lot of psychological issues and a lot of fears and anxiety. And that haunts you, because it haunts you. Suppose you have done it, you can free yourself from the consequences at legal system, which is man-made. But the laws of Ishvara, where they are infallible, you can't get away from it. And what, in terms of your own feeling of guilt, it will haunt you completely. So that is important for us to recognize, that we follow values not to please others, not to kind of do a favor to the society. We follow values because they are important to us. They are important for our own mental sanity, right? If the mind is being haunted by guilt, then it can never enjoy anything. So, Kaha sadhu. What is? No, sorry. Kutra videyaha yatnaha, right? Where is effort ordained? What does it mean? What should receive your attention? Okay, now that means, what should you pay attention to when you are living? Vidya bhase sa daushadhe dane, right? So in learning, good medicine and charity, right? So what your life has to be focused on learning. Why? Because see, one thing we have to understand, right? Learning we do anyway. All of us go to school, right? Everybody understands the importance of learning. But what we do not understand is, when we learn, when we go to school, we learn subject matters. And what are these subject matters? We learn history, we learn geography, we learn sciences, we learn math, we learn humanity, we learn many, many different things. But what happens is what our own, the person who is learning, that very person is what at times, we have so many emotions, we have so many stories, we have so many experiences, and we are not able to keep or get come to terms or gain certain mastery over our internal being. So this is why we find people are highly accomplished, they are highly intelligent, but when it comes to their own maturity, sometimes they are very mature. Why? Because we are never taught. We are never taught how to deal with all of this. So this is why when you begin to pay attention to yourself, when you begin to actually look at your own life and gain a certain mastery, that is something which is very much required. It is required because it will allow you to guide your life meaningfully. It will also make your emotional landscape healthy. And that is why spiritual knowledge is extremely important. Without this spiritual knowledge, what happens is life remains fragmented. And your happiness levels, no matter what your accomplishments are, your happiness levels are still not, reaching a certain satisfactory levels. So this is why learning which will fulfill you, learning which will make you a master of your life is equally important, along with all the other learnings. So this is why what in Vedas, they talk about two kind of vidyas, Paravidya and Aparavidya. Aparavidya is all the different knowledges, right, that you can think of: music, dance, any discipline, astrology, astronomy, genetics, anything. This is all Aparavidya. But if it is not accomplished, all these accomplishments do not come with Paravidya, then what? They still remain incomplete. Then Sat Aushadhi, right? So the focus also has to be on what they call Aushadhi is generally Annam, right? We think that, oh, medicines we have to take. But actually, Annam is Aushadhi. If you eat well, it itself is what it will prevent from any diseases from entering your body. What happens is our eating habits are mostly guided by our tongue. What is tasty, what is attractive. So that becomes a guiding the force. But what actually, if you use food as Aushadhi, then what you're not. My grandmother used to say that food remains on your tongue only for a few seconds, but after that it enters your digestive tract. And we only think about what happens, the sensation that the tongue feels. We totally disregard what is going to happen in the digestive tract. And what will happen? Am I putting in something which has a good nutrient value? Can the body absorb it? And can it nourish my organs? All this is nobody generally thinks about. But nowadays, there is a lot of awareness and lot of awareness about consumption of food. But if it is out of perspective, it again becomes a fad or an obsession. So what now all of a sudden, indiscriminately, everybody is of dairy, of gluten, of this. These are all fads, right? The people were criticizing ghee. Everybody stopped, and then all of a sudden, ghee becomes superfood. So it's all so kind of this health. What is considered healthy is again it's all manipulated and made into a fad. So neither we want that. A health food junkie who is obsessed with health, nor you want to be somebody who totally disregards health and only goes for the taste and the sensation. But what? A certain proper attitude with food, that is extremely important. There is a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. And that verse we have to remind ourselves. And what is this? Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Dantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. And what does that mean? While eating, we used to chant this verse. And that what you remind yourself that the food is Brahman, is a gift from Ishvara. The eater is also, is a manifestation of Ishvara. The food is given to the internal fire, and the one who offers, right, unto the internal fire, a gift of Ishvara in form of food to nourish the organs, and that when the organs are nourished, then the body is healthy. It can be used for, that body can be used for what? Meaningful activities and knowledge. Then what happens? You see everywhere the presence of Ishvara in the eater, in the digestive system, in the external food, and the eater, as a result of being nourished, what that person can do to the ongoing yajna of Ishvara. So then what has happened is you have brought Ishvara in your food habits and Ishvara in your good health. You are eating good food, not just to remain healthy, but a healthy body has to be used meaningfully. It has to be used meaningfully to perform actions and which are responsible, which show gratitude, and which contribute to the well-being of others. So this is why what needs to be cultivated is proper thoughts about food and health, right? Health is important. It's not an end in itself, but it is a means to an end. Then charity. What is charity? Giving is a very important thing. So Swamiji used to say that we are all mostly consumers. We have so many needs of ours that we always want. Our whole focus is, what can I get? What can I get? In every situation, implicitly, what is in for me, right? And it's okay. I mean, this is kind of a little bit of human nature. But who is a mature human being who says, who discerns the fact that, hey, I have received so much from life and I constantly receive all the blessings, and what can I give back? And when you give back, it's not like you are some great person. That's the most natural thing that you can do if you understand the nature of life. So giving, reaching out with humility, and also to the right persons, identify the right causes and help them, right? And that is something which is very important in life. So these three things have to be what they have to receive your attention. One is learning, and learning, not just any other learning, but learning about yourself, which will complete your learning, right? The second is good health, right? And the third is reaching out and charity. Avadhirana ka karya. Where is indifference to be shown? So what does it mean? Where do you not pay so much attention, right? What is something which you make sure that you're not drawn to? So, khalu para yoshi tu para dhaneshu. Towards bad people, then another's wife and another's property. So what does it mean? So what do you not, make sure? What happens is we tend to be attracted. And then what do we need to do? We have to make sure that we, bring our buddhi, brings our mind, the reins back, and it doesn't get carried away. So sometimes, especially at young age or even in other, we have such a big need in us to belong. And, what does it mean? I met one young boy, and that young boy was into smoking. And I said, why are you smoking? So he says that, at first I didn't want to smoke, but I went for a party and everybody was smoking. So I also started smoking. But over a period of time, I see that it's not really doing any good to me. My digestive system is not good. I have too much dependency on it. My mind gets all foggy. It's not at all something which is nice, but I can't give it up. So why can't you give it up? He says, not only my body demands it, but what my socializing is around smoking. So if I stop smoking, right, if I go there, I will be active. But if I don't go there, I'll be isolated. So what does it mean? This is the bad company. So first they influence you and make you do something which is inappropriate. Then you find yourself helpless because you are, there is a dependency created. And then you can't get out of it, not only because your body is used to it, but also that company everybody needs, and what you feel that you will lose friends. You will lose friends if you give up this habit. So it keeps you in a loop. So bad company is something that sucks you and makes you do all kinds of things. So this is why you need to, from the beginning, right, avoid that kind of a thing. So choose your friends. Choose your friends in a way they will support you. They'll help you to progress in life, and not those who pull you down. Another's wife. So what happens? Always there is this thing that when relationship starts, it starts with a lot of feelings and love and romance and all that, but very soon everything becomes monotonous. And somebody else, who is a little fresh, brings little freshness, brings a little spark, and we get attracted to that person. And if we go along with that attraction, what can happen is, you create a lot of, disturbances, because what will happen is you have to hide from your own spouse, for example. Then you start lying. Then the wife becomes suspicious. Then you have to defend yourself. Then suppose she finds out, and the kids who are looking at it, many lives are involved, and it just leads to so much pain and so much suffering on part of everybody. So your happiness cannot be built on making everybody else's life so miserable. Yeah. So that one has to, these kind of attractions and all are pretty normal. But what we do need to do is we need to bring our mind back. And this is why sometimes, we justify, and this is a human mind. Human mind is incredible. Anything that you do, you justify. Oh, I must have some past connection with this person, so I'm just drawn to that person. So, please don't use all these past connections and all to kind of, take your buddhi away from a certain proper thinking. And this is why what another's wife is something that when those kind of thoughts come, we immediately have to nip them in the bud and not just, go on going along with them, which at one point we will find that, we are completely under their spell. We have lost our capacity to, make right choices. So this is why one has to stay away from. And another's property. Again, we get tempted, right? When everybody sees and your value is according to what you own, then what happens is sometimes that we want to do well in life. It is wonderful. There is nothing wrong with it. But if you want to do well by grabbing what doesn't belong to you, finding shortcuts to what increase your wealth through unfair means, then it is something that you have to nip it in the bud again. Because even if you feel that you can get away from it, but what will happen over a period of time, it catches up. We have seen so many business cases, right, that they became very important and very powerful. But if it was all, done through inappropriate means, ultimately they get caught, and they suffer, and their life is destroyed, the people in their family. It just brings a lot of unhappiness. And as I told you, suppose you don't even get found and you don't get caught and you don't you free, but still it creates a lot of disturbance in you. So these kind of things are not worth it for us, right? And this is why show indifference, right? keep your mind, not get engaged and so deeply engaged that you lose the whole, control over your life. Okay, now the next. Kaha aharnisham anuchintya. What is to be reflected on day and night? So what do you need to reflect continuously? Samsara asarata natu pramada. Right? What does it mean? Limitation of artha kama in dharma. This is something that you need to constantly remind yourself. According to Vedanta, according to the Vedas, what moksha is the end. And if moksha is the end, which is what? Your own freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from smallness, freedom from mortality, freedom from inadequacy, freedom from any lack. If this is your goal, and if you are searching for that freedom through artha, dharma, and kama. What does it? Artha is all forms of security that you think will make you free, which is what? Money, power, wealth, relationships. Then what happens is you're caught. You're caught. And then you don't really find the freedom which is centered on you. So this is why what you have to reflect day and night is limitation of artha, kama, all forms of pleasures, right? Whether they are, the pleasures in form of sports or entertainment or travel or food, or, there are infinite sources of pleasures. And again, one has to understand that, there is this limitation. Now, the third limitation is an important limitation, dharma limitation. That is hard for most of the people to figure out. And what is that? Being good is wonderful, right? I mean, that you need to be a good human being, but being a good human being in itself is not a solution to what? My search for freedom. So being good only helps me in what way? It avoids conflict. It gives me a relatively comfortable life, right? Because life compensates me for my, good deeds or acts which are responsible, acts which are not stepping on others' rights. So it compensates me. But at the same time, they are finite in nature. And they are finite in nature. Those good acts cannot give me immortality. They can give me a relatively comfortable life, but they cannot give me immortality. They can give me some comfort, but it cannot give me freedom from limitation. So that has to be very, very clear. And that you have to keep reminding yourself. Now, what does it mean? If you keep reminding yourself, then are we asking to shun all of this? You don't need to shun anything. What you do need to understand is this is what it can do. It can't do anymore. So this is why this doesn't become an end in itself. This becomes the means to an end. So this is what we call life of Karma Yoga. Everything, you can have a wealth, and only when you have wealth, you can do charities, right? So otherwise it's not possible, right? So even to live, but what do I do with this wealth? That is your maturity lies there, right? It's not about shunning anything, but how do I use it meaningfully? How do I use it intelligently? How do I understand the Ishvara's order and do it with gratitude, do it with humility rather than with arrogance and with pretense or with conceit. So this keeping right perspective while you live is a test. Giving up is not necessarily the best thing, but how do you do it with the right attitude, with a proper understanding? That is a challenge. And this is something that you need to do constantly, and not make different things an end in themselves, but understand that they are means to an end. So that has to be done day and night. Limitation of artha, dharma, and kama. Yeah. Ka preyasi vidheya. What is to be cultivated with affection? Karuna dineshu sajjane maitri. So what does it mean? What needs to be cultivated? Compassion towards the helpless and friendship with good. As I told you, that the friendship with not so good, it can pull you down, and you find yourself, as caught in a certain things, and you're unable to come out of it. Good people, as I told you, they will lift you, they will support you, they will stand by you, they will, at times tell you things which are important for you to hear, and they'll make you evolve as human being. So this is why what friendship with good has to be cultivated, right? And also compassion towards the helpless. So that means, as I told you, empathy is something which is a gift of Ishvara. Everybody is given, it's an innate program. And what is this innate program? Just as I recognize my own discomfort with pain, right? I can also recognize what that others are not comfortable when they are in pain. That is an innate kind of a program that everybody has. But what you do with it, either you justify and you don't do anything about it, saying that I have no time, I have no resources, I don't want to get into it, I'm busy with my life, or I can't help everyone, therefore I cannot help even this person. Either you can justify or you can cultivate. So what? Let me do what I can at this point in time within my sphere of influence, and then what? Take it from there. So lots and lots of people used to come to Swamiji for help. And, sometimes he was in a position to help. Sometimes, everything you can't, there are so many other demands. Oh, this person needs admission in this school and this college, and, this person has this health issues, and, it is endless. So many people need so much help from you. But every time he used to say, instead of being overwhelmed and instead of thinking, oh my God, how can I do all of this? He would say, let me just think, what can I do? And sometimes he knows so many doctors, and he would just make a call and say, can you please look into this? Or he knows somebody and he says, can you please? And at least he does something for somebody to just reach out. Everything may not turn out as he wanted, but his mind has shifted. Instead of, oh my God, what can I do? To what, let me see, how I can help. Then he said that sometimes it was so difficult that, people were wealthy and at the same time they were suffering, and you can't really do much. It's not like they needed financial help or, but there was so much suffering. And he felt, that now what can I do? And he said, even if you can't do anything really, concrete, you can always do one thing. And what? Pray for their well-being. Pray for, for them to either go through or help them to free themselves. That much you can always do. So what happens is, instead of using your intellect to curb your empathy, you're using your intellect to support and go along with this empathy, and you convert it into that feeling of empathy is converted into an act of compassion. That is very, very important, and that needs to be cultivated. Consciously acting on that empathy and making it concrete through your actions. Then that's when you become compassionate. Okay. Kantha gataihi api asubhihi kasyahi atma na shakyate jetu. For whom it is difficult to gain self-mastery. It's hard to cultivate, it's very easy to say, I'm free from everything, I'm Brahman, but to actually prepare yourself for this knowledge is never that easy. So here he says what murkhasya shankitasya cha vishadinaha va akrutajnasya. What so what keeps you from self-mastery is the one who refuses to learn. Murkha is the one who refuses to learn. Even if you are told, right, there is a mind, which is a rebellious mind, which is kind of a person who doesn't want to, even if it is something which is good for you, it is desirable by you, but it has resistance. And the minute it has what we call cognitive resistance, what will happen is you will block yourself. And that blocking yourself will deprive you of this opportunity to learn. So that is something that prevents self-mastery. The second kind of a person who doubts and is cynical. So there are a lot of people, when I'm a teacher, I see that quite often, that some people come to my class, I mean to anybody's classes, with this attitude to learn. They have a certain shraddha, they have certain open-mindedness. Some people come with this skepticism and cynical mind. So anything that you say, there is always this, this whole attempt is always to negate rather than to understand. So that cynical mind, the mind which is only fraught with doubts, it doesn't want to give somebody else a chance to explain. And the mind is constantly wanting to kind of stick to its own beliefs, right? And prove itself rather than take new inputs. This is something which will prevent you from gaining self-mastery. Then this is amazing. The one who is always sad. What does this mean? That sadness sometimes can be caused by external situations, right? Some things happen and you feel sad. But sometimes our sadness is caused by our orientation. So what does it mean? In everything you see something which is, your mind keeps showing something hopeless, right? And this is what it leads to melancholy. Melancholy means always you're pessimistic about everything. You only see the dark side. You only see the problem in things. You always see that everything, you are stuck. So that kind of a thing, it prevents you from self-mastery. If you cultivate and if you get caught in these patterns of thinking, then you can't, and you keep justifying, this is how it is, or, then that keeps you from gaining self-mastery. And the last one is akrutajnasya, being ungrateful. Everything that comes to you, if you take it for granted, that you're the entitlement, that life owes this to me, this is what my right is, then what will happen is that there is this entitlement means everything is due to me. And if it doesn't come, then I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm anxious, and I project and I say, this one is responsible and that one is responsible for me not achieving what I want to achieve, or me not getting what I'm entitled to get. This kind of a thing leads you to lack of self-mastery. So victim mentality, that, I'm victim of circumstances. I want to control everything. Everything is what I have entitlement, I have rights for everything. These kind of orientations, right, or always finding problems, these kind of things kind of, they lead to a lot of unhappiness for us and not mastery over our ways of thinking. Then, kaha sadhuhu. So, what is good? Sat vrataha. So what is this? One of good conduct, right? So who is the person who has good conduct? A good person, basically, right? So 3 stages which I had talked about. One is, the first is your ability to follow samanya dharma. What is samanya dharma? universal ethical values. What everybody knows, I don't want to be cheated, I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to be lied to. And everybody also knows others don't want the same. So if you're able to respect that, not only with reference to others, but also with reference to yourself, right? What does it mean? That not only you have to make sure that you respect others, but you also have to, when somebody is not, is kind of really putting you down and all, then what, to maintain a certain, what we call boundary. What is this boundary? That you cannot, in the name of being nice, you cannot let people walk all over you. This is the whole teaching of the Gita, right? What that, hey, Arjuna, you want, they are your cousins and all. It's wonderful, and that you love them, wonderful. But because they are your cousins, they have got no right to what, just walk all over you. And also, they are not just private individuals, they are the kings, and they also have no right to what, disturb or to rule the kingdom only for their own, enjoyment. They have responsibility. And if they do not have that, then what happens is you have to draw a line and you have to do what needs to be done. This is what we call drawing a certain boundary. Drawing a boundary is extremely important. Just as you have to respect others' boundaries, you also have to respect your own boundary. This is why we have seen throughout Mahabharata, Lord Krishna was a very kind and a very, fair human being, but he didn't allow people to insult him. He didn't allow people to kind of, walk all over him. He always maintained he had a place, and nobody could violate that place. That is also, but gently, and not, with this protecting oneself or anything. But that is also a value, which is Samanya Dharma. Swadharma, as I had told you, playing your roles effectively. And the third is Lokasangraha. What is Lokasangraha? Reaching out. Reaching out, because if you have to understand, I am the whole, and all that is here is one, you cannot live as a small human being, always what, afraid and frightened and thinking of external world as something which is attacking you, and you are constantly trying to protect yourself, or you're trying to grab things. And, this kind of a person can never understand the vision of oneness. Vision of oneness requires, a shift. And what is that shift? You begin to become, you reach out, compassion, empathy, all that, right? Your connections, kindness, it all has to come. Your lack of projection on the world. You don't name the world as a bad place or anything. Hey, where is bad place? It is all Ishvara. And that Ishvara has its own Swarupa as Brahman. That you have to understand. If you keep rejecting the world, where will you understand oneness? That means you are creating an external Frankenstein called world to get to somewhere. That itself is Dvaita. So that means world cannot be seen as absolute reality. World has to be seen as manifestation of that one. That is wisdom. So that is what that we need to cultivate. Okay. So that is sadhu, and that is good conduct. Good conduct will allow you to get to the final truth. Now, how much time do I have? Can I?
Yeah, you can take another 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, great. Excellent. Right? Kam adham achakshate. Right? Who is said to be lowly? Tu asat vrataha. Somebody who is lowly is the one who has bad conduct. And what is this bad conduct? So that again we have to decipher a little bit. One thing is this pretense. So many of us, we have a certain insecurity about who we are, and we are constantly trying to pretend to others, and that leads to falsehood. That leads to this rivalry, jealousy. So these kind of things we need to take care of by actually keep reminding us that here I'm not trying to prove myself as an individual. that individual has a journey to make. And what kind of a journey I have to evolve as a human being so I can understand my oneness with Ishvara. If that is your goal, then what happens? All these different tendencies, which are very natural to us, we are able to detect and we are able to bring our mind back. The second thing, which is also very important, is anger. So anger, everybody, anger, our Swamiji used to say, is a sign of some pain that is with you, which is unresolved, unaddressed. So anger cannot, suppose I keep telling you, don't be angry, don't be angry. But even if you don't want to be angry, you will become, some things will trigger that anger in you unless the pain that you're holding on to is resolved. So you don't address anger. What do you address is the pain which causes that anger, right? And heal that person. Healing is important. And more you bring Ishvara and the infallible order of Ishvara in your life, the more you will heal yourself. In spite of the seeming imperfections, what everything is happening according to the cause and effect relationship. And therefore, you can't really blame anybody. The only thing that you can do is change your own causes so they will produce appropriate effort, conducive results. And those conducive results in themselves are not an end, but what they will help you move towards moksha. So that is something that we all have to address in our journey. What this tendency to pretend things and also anger, it all has to be addressed and looked into and healed. Kena jitam jagat etat. By whom is this world conquered? Satya titiksha vata pumsa. By the person who has truthfulness and endurance, right? So this is truthfulness, as I told you, certain honesty. And honesty is at two levels. One is satyam vada and the second is ritam vada. And what is the distinction? One is I say what I think. It's not that I say one thing and I think one thing, or I know one thing and I say another thing. That is very important. That is called satyam. Satyam is I say what I think and I don't misrepresent it. But the second is a little more responsibility. What is ritam vada? Ritam vada is to make sure that what I say is the right thing. And what does it mean? I can say what I think and I can influence many people, but that itself could be misguided. So there is an added responsibility that if you are saying something, make sure that there is truth in it and not just your own opinion, which you think is right. So that is very important. And the second is what by this person, the world is conquered, the person who is truthful. And the second is titiksha. And what is titiksha? We all have to understand that in this world, certain amount of discomfort nobody can avoid. What does it mean? Two kinds of discomforts: physical discomfort and emotional discomfort. This is something nobody can totally avoid, right? And when you know that, then what happens is, instead of, when things happen which are either physically not comfortable or emotionally not comfortable, you feel totally overwhelmed. What happens is you can say, maybe from these discomforts, right? Either I just have to put up like extreme cold and extreme heat or whatever, or physical discomfort of being at home for 2 years, right, during the COVID time. And you just have to find a way around it. And secondly, what you do need to do is what even mental afflictions, right? You can't stop. Please do not stop your mind when it is at times, feeling a little low. What you can do is accompany and change your thought processes gently, right? And take it to a more kind of a healthy place, but not just kind of, violently trying to stop. Because anything that you kind of artificially try to curb, that very thing will stay and it will form part of your unconscious, and it will rule you. The very thing that you want to avoid will begin to rule you. So what you have to do is to face it and to work with it gently and free yourself from it. So this is why titiksha is important. That to understand that what I can't totally avoid physical and emotional discomfort, but I have to gently take my mind away and make my life beautiful, and not just expect that nothing will happen to me which is going to bring discomfort. Certain amount of discomfort and endurance is required, and resilience is required. Okay. Kasmai namamsi devaha kurvanti. To whom do gods offer their salutations? Daya pradhanaya. The one who is compassionate, what even the gods will, reward that person. And, because even gods know that how enjoying these higher positions, right? How easy it is for any jiva, whether you're on this earth or in heaven, what for you to become conceited, to keep away that conceit and to reach out. Even when you enjoy certain privileges in life, then what will do? Those gods will do salutations to you because you have remained compassionate and not lost your perspective. Kasmat udvegaha syat, which is to be shuddered at. Samsara aranyataha sudhiyaha. What? The noble-minded shudder at the jungle of life. And what does it mean? What it means is that there is, in the cause and effect, there are many possibilities, but cause and effect, what they keep you in samsara. They keep you in samsara, and what you have to get to is your truth. And this is why you have to see that it's a paradigm which may seem attractive, but there is an inherent limitation. So that is the 19th verse. Okay, so my time has come.
Yeah, thank you very much for another wonderful session. There were a lot of lovely takeaways, especially the value to cultivate titiksha and truthfulness was really nice. And you left us with one more sadhana, like last week when you told us not to have very strong opinion about things that we don't know much about. Which is a very valuable meditation and something to reflect upon for the rest of the week. And this week you have, of course, given us another beautiful sadhana, that don't forcefully stop your thoughts, and try to just cultivate better thoughts than negative thoughts. So that's again another wonderful takeaway. And of course, the rest of the verses were also great gems, what one should always reflect upon. And of course, the last one was really beautiful, saying that to whom do the gods themselves pay respect? And those are the ones who are the kind people. That's actually beautiful. The gems have been explained even more wonderfully by you. So there's a lot of great praise for your sessions. Again, that they're very nice, and you've given beautiful examples of people and real examples that, whether it is from your own life or whether instances from Swamiji's life. And so any other, what is the, like last week, can you give us another takeaway till next Saturday when we can meet you? What can we take up as a sadhana and reflect upon?
Yeah, I think I would talk about 3 things you can think about. Good, and I like that fact, right? But pay attention, where are my actions coming from? Are they coming from cheerfulness, meaning, my responsibility, or dissatisfaction? It's not about living a, passive life. That's on staying away from things. But the place from which your actions come. If they come from dissatisfaction, even if you think you're doing something big, it doesn't really do much. But if they come from a meaningful, contribution, if they come from responsibility, then that is wonderful. That you can do many things, but not from this place of, not the bitter person, not a dissatisfied person, but somebody who is connected and expresses. So that is one thing. The second thing is just see, the contribution of different people in your life. Anything, whether you are at work or whether you are, at home, you see, for anything to be accomplished, for anything to be done, right? You need people, you need cooperation, and you need, and in order for everything to work well, no matter where you are, what happens is, you have to have gratitude. Gratitude is important. Only when you are grateful, then what will happen is life will bless you with things, right? And so contentment, gratitude are two things that please make sure that you keep reminding yourself to have, and that will make your life beautiful. That will make you naturally compassionate. Naturally compassionate, because when you are content and you have so much gratitude for what life has given you, you will naturally reach out to others. So these three things you can pay attention to.
Thank you very much, Neema ji, for this wonderful session. Viewers, you can tune in next Saturday for for another session from Neema ji. More immediately, we have a wonderful session coming in the evening. I'd like to make an announcement on that. Okay, we have a very interesting session, which is Advaita in Carnatic music, which will be at 7 p.m. India time. Please definitely tune into this. This is a very unique topic, that how in music also we see we have the Advaita Bhava. Thank you very much, and see you all in the evening. Namaste.
Namaste.